All right, have a seat, everybody. Who's excited to be here in Tampa, Florida for the Student Action Summit? This is the largest Student Action Summit in history, by far, nearly double the size of the one that we had a couple years ago. And for those of you that are visiting that are not students, we give the best seats to students for a reason. Because these students, every day, are on the front lines, being smeared, being slandered, being canceled, being kicked out of classes, kicked out of fraternities, kicked out of sororities. These are the students that worked so hard to register voters this last election. These are the students that start these chapters. They are the vanguard for saving this country. 13 years ago, when I first started Turning Point USA and this journey began, if you would have told me 13 years later that we would have someone running for the presidency as a Republican winning the youth vote in major states, I would say, how would that be possible? 13 years ago, we started the journey, and it was chapter by chapter, student by student, person by person, prove me wrong by prove me wrong, liberal by liberal, proving one wrong at a time, and billions of views later, what happened in November was a shot heard around the world. You see, all Kamala Harris needed to do was get younger people to vote at the same margins that Joe Biden got them to vote back in 2020. Did you know that baby boomers moved 3 points more Democrat back in November? Aha. But younger voters moved 22 points to the right in November. The youth delivered the White House to Donald Trump. The next generation rose up in record numbers, and I started to see it at the Prove Me Wrongs across America. We would just start with a couple hundred students, and all of a sudden, like 1,000 students would come, and all of a sudden, they'd be wearing red hats as far as the eye could see. I said, there's something profound happening in this country. There's something that is deep, that is larger than what the media is covering. And we turned that red MAGA hat from a symbol that everybody was afraid to wear back in 2016. Where now in 2024, we turned that into a symbol of hope, into a symbol of optimism, of patriotism, and taking back our country. Back in November, when we rose up, younger voters saw President Trump as a lifeline. President Donald Trump represented for them a way to try to get everybody's attention that things were not all right for this generation. You see, I spend a lot of time talking to the next generation. We just did an entire Prove Me Wrong with many of you out in the hall. I did over 100 hours of campus debates this last semester, 200 hours in 1 year, over 65 campuses that I visit. And a through line is repeated, whether they're Republican or Democrat or conservative or liberal. There is an angst, there's an uneasiness, there is a worry, there is a concern. And they say in no uncertain terms, Charlie, I'm trying to get my leader's attention. I can't afford a home. I can't afford basic necessities. If I ask a girl out on a date and I get one word wrong, she could report me for sexual harassment. I am surrounded by this political correctness, or if I don't get the pronouns correct of the trans activist next to me in class, it could be the end of my career. My town, my city is flooded by illegal aliens. Charlie, when will my leaders start fighting for me and my generation? I hear every single day from you in this audience, the students, Charlie, why is it that we spend hundreds of billions of dollars on wars abroad, but our own generation has to go endlessly in debt to pay our medical bills and suffer under credit card debt? Why is it that why you, the next generation, have to compete to buy a home against a Chinese oligarch? Let me be very clear. No foreign national should be allowed to own single-family homes until this generation can have the same homes that their parents had. And this angst and this unease built up, and it culminated in the election of Donald Trump. The youth delivered the White House for President Trump. And understand that now 6-7 months later, we've inherited a disordered economy from Joe Biden. If we do not deliver on economic promises, especially for the next generation, if we do not make you owners of this economy, not just renters of this economy, then you're going to see a lot more Zohran Mamdanis. Now, we should boo Zohran Mamdani. The guy is a bigot. anti-civilization to its core, anti-American, anti-Western, wants to nationalize or make all the grocery stores run by the government, defund the police. All that is garbage. But we fail to understand why he is rising. Yeah, part of it is that people in New York are not like you wonderful people here in Florida. That's partially it. But there's a deeper thing at play. Younger voters are trying to get their leaders' attention. We can't afford anything. Homes are out of reach. I'm tired of renting all the time, and I have zero equity to my name. If we do not solve the economic disorder that is facing this generation, from the debts, the deficits, student loan debt, cost of living, then Mamdani will just be the beginning of what you're going to see in communities across the country. So what is the solution? Well, the solution is what President Trump is trying to do every single day, and we need more of it. We need double and tripling down on it. Starting with those of you that are looking for a job, you should not have to compete against a foreigner for your job. American college graduates should come first. And that starts with President Donald Trump, and this will affect everybody in this room, regardless of age. It is time for the largest deportation effort this country has ever seen. If you are here illegally, you are deported from the United States of America. Period. No amnesty. Repeat after me. No amnesty. Period. End of story. We will not put up with any exceptions, any carve-outs, any loopholes, any exceptions, any asterisks, any iotas. I don't care if it's 10 years or 15 years. We voted for mass deportations. We did not vote for mass amnesty. And we expect our leaders to deliver it and bring back our country to a place of citizenship and Americans being put first. Number two, very important. It is more than past time for our elected leaders to understand that they are going to have to put the economics of the next generation into their calculus. This is something that Mamdani does, but he does it so sloppily. He says, if you're bitter and you don't like the country, vote for me and I'm going to give you a bunch of free stuff. Everybody, endless tax cuts just for the wealthy. That's fine. I like tax cuts. It's good. My radio show does really well. Podcast does well. But I'll tell you right now, you are going to see a massive breakdown of the political order. If people don't own stuff, our politics are about to get a lot more radical. But let's go a step further. We need to celebrate, embrace, platform, and sometimes, if necessary, subsidize getting married and having children. We are not having enough children in this country. This is a national crisis. I don't want to hear about, well, racism is a threat to America. It's a bunch of horsepucky. Oh, environmentalism, climate change. Do you know what a threat to our country is? We're not having enough babies. Now, my wife and I, we are doing our part. We have 2 young children, and we'll see what else the Lord has in store. But I was fascinated today by talking to our amazing young patriots as part of Turning Point USA. I was so moved. And they say, Charlie, I want to get married. I want to have kids. It's hard to find other people that share my values. By the way, for everyone watching online, if you want to find your future husband or wife, that's why you should be here in Tampa, Florida, because there's a lot of eligible bachelor and bachelorettes here. A lot. But we must prioritize it. We should tell our young ladies that if you want to go be the CEO of a shoe company, that's fine. But do you know what's really going to matter 30 years from now? What's going to matter is whether or not you have the love of your life and you have decided to raise children. It doesn't matter how many trips to Thailand you make. It doesn't matter how many nights out at the club. What matters is what lasts. And what matters is things that are hard. What strikes me about this generation is the most conservative generation that we have seen in well over 50 years. And the numbers show it. This is the greatest generational realignment since Woodstock. We have never seen a generation move so quickly and so fast. And you guys are making all the liberals confused. They thought you were going to be the most liberal generation. But part of the reasons why this happened is those of you that are here in this audience and the millions of people that voted for President Trump and that are part of our movement, you were lied to so repeatedly. Wear the mask. Take the vaccine. No prom. No graduation. School closures. America's a racist country. You experienced the worst of the American left. And your politics now is a rejection of all of that garbage. No more political correctness. And you know what's amazing? Church attendance was going down steadily in America the last 20 years. It's gone up slightly because this is the most religious generation that we have seen in 40 years. Do you understand the significance of that? Because at its core, what we are fighting is a spiritual battle. This is a spiritual sickness throughout the West. And if you're here and you don't believe in God, okay, fine, I'll pray for you. And I hope you find Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, because it will change your life. But understand, you should even be cheering for a religious revival. You get the worst ideas when you have secularism. Men give birth. No borders. America's a terrible country. These things are almost all outgrowths of secularism. But this generation, you guys want something deeper. You want something more. And let me put this in existential terms. If we do not deliver, we are going to see all of these gains made by Donald Trump, and many of these people will either not vote at all, or they'll be scooped up by some Democrat opportunist. What needs to happen is a couple things. I'm still waiting for it. Where is the national apology to you guys, this generation, for what happened to you during COVID? Where is the apology saying, we never should have shut down the schools? We never should have taken graduation from you. We never should have forced a vaccine on you that doesn't work and kicked you out of school if you didn't take it. And the lack of the apology shows that we are in, dare I say, a turning point. We are in a place where decisions need to be made, a time for choosing. And our leaders in D.C. better start to get the memo, because there is a movement coming. And yes, it is the most conservative generation, but that doesn't mean they're going to support every single Republican. If you're a Republican and you support, yay, more foreign aid to endless countries, Gen Z doesn't want that, actually. They want Americans to be put first, not foreigners to be put first. If you're a Republican and all of a sudden you say, we're just going to, let the market do its job, and we don't care even though things are incredibly out of reach, you're going to say, you know what, no. I like what President Trump is doing at tariffs. I want stuff made in America again. You see, there is a new ascendant movement. I've done my best to try to warn people what is coming. And I think it's exciting. I think it's new. I think it's fresh. I think it's authentic. Because if you look at the last 50 years, we've had a ton of problems in this country. From our debts and our deficits to our hyperinflation to mass migration. And another thing that this generation increasingly believes, they don't necessarily believe that immigration makes your country better. You only get Mamdani, you get Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib not just because of illegal immigration. It's legal immigration that is also the problem. When you allow a bunch of people into your country legally and they don't share your values, turns out they don't always assimilate. Mamdani and his entire family came here legally. They didn't come across the southern border. No one can tell me that that person is improving the United States of America. He's a self-righteous, narcissistic parasite on New York City and should be expelled from politics. But we let him in. Maybe it's time. Maybe it is time for us to reconsider almost all of our political orthodoxies. Do immigrants really make our country better? Some do. Some of our amazing Cuban immigrants here that I see in the audience, you've assimilated, you make America better. But if you come from Somalia and you refuse to learn our language, adopt to our customs, and assimilate, I'm sorry, America is closed to the third world until further notice. We are not a dumping ground for the rest of the planet. The Democrat Party is trying to figure themselves out right now. And they're in a position where they don't really know their leader, but they will eventually figure it out. They're a major political party, and they're desperate to get back into action. But this is where things really become real very quickly, is that this is the greatest opportunity that I am afraid that some in the Republican Party are messing up. President Trump understands this better than anybody else. You understand how incredible that is, what a death blow it is to win the youth vote as a Republican? Do you know what that means? That means if you hold on to that demographic and that generation, it's done for the left. So shouldn't it be that our leaders should be thinking every single day, how do I hold on to this and grow it? Instead, at times, I don't always feel that energy out of Washington, D.C. Instead, I feel as if they take you for granted, the younger voters that are going through this. And you know what? The next couple of days, we need to make our voice heard. We need to send a message to D.C. and to the rest of the bipartisan cartel that we want our own interests represented. Because if we allow the generational theft to continue, which is the plundering of the next generation, then I'll say it once, I'll say it twice. You will see a radicalization event from the left that will take your breath away. But here is the advantage, everybody, is that we are the ascendant political force. We did the impossible. We turned campuses into MAGA. We moved the youth vote by 20 or 30 points. We turned the country from super woke to all of a sudden super patriotic in a short period of time. But now this is where all of you, it matters. If you are not yet involved in a Turning Point USA chapter, start one. Start a high school or college chapter. Go to the Turning Point USA booth after this and say, I want to go start a chapter. I want to get involved on my college campus. If you are not a student and you're listening to this, politics is now a 24/7 sport. Get involved in your school board. Get involved in your city council. Support your local Turning Point USA chapter. Hold your Senate accountable. Who here is from South Carolina? Anybody from South Carolina? Great. Go primary Lindsey Graham and make sure he's no longer a sitting U.S. Senator. Who here is from, let's pick a state. Who here is from Kentucky? Anybody? Anybody from Kentucky? Great. I'm behind Nate Morris. I think he'd be a great person to replace Mitch McConnell. We need to make sure that the Mitch McConnell era ends in Kentucky and does not continue to spread. Everybody, this movement is a grassroots movement at its core. And it's a question the next couple of days. And you're going to hear from a wide variety of speakers. You're going to hear from Tucker Carlson tonight. You're going to hear from Donald Trump Jr. You're going to hear from Megyn Kelly. You're going to hear from Pete Hegseth. You're going to hear from Kristi Noem. And it is time for us to chart a vision. President Donald Trump took the entire country on his shoulders and was millimeters away from having his brains blown out. Oh, and by the way, we're going to remember it this weekend. This weekend is July 13th, where President Trump was this close from losing his life. But everybody, what a tragedy it would be if by divine intervention God saved the country and we decided to just cast it aside. Where we have this ascendant, exciting, charismatic, bottom-up energy of young people from across America. And the mandate is very simple. Business as usual as DC will no longer work. It is time for us to get involved in primaries. It's time for us to make our voice heard. It's time for us to take over the Republican Party in a conservative image. It's time for us to support the good guys and out the bad guys. And at times, for all the young people out there, you need to keep fighting on your college campus. I know you're outnumbered by the purple-haired jihadis on a daily basis. I know that everybody on a college campus, they try to intimidate you. They try to threaten you. But everyone who's not a student in here, I want to reiterate this. What they're doing is one of the hardest things to do in the United States of America. They are deciding to be less popular on campus. They are deciding to actually speak out with a high social cost. They're deciding, even though it might jeopardize their job, their career, or their reputation, to put their country over themselves. And I think that deserves recognition and gratitude, because that is what is the best of this country is. I'll close with this. We've been given this gift, popular vote majority, electoral vote majority, and now it's on us. We have to execute. We have to have mass deportations. We have to make sure the border wall is secure. We have to make sure that we fulfill all of our promises when it comes to transparency. We have to make sure that young people can afford homes. If we fail to do this, the coalition will be put in jeopardy. I have faith in President Trump. I do not have faith in the Republican Congress. These next couple of days here in Tampa, Florida, all 7,000 of you, you are the center of the political universe on the planet right now. Everybody is looking to Tampa, Florida. What will happen here will chart a new future course. Marriages will happen this weekend. Lifetime friendships will happen this weekend. Careers will start this weekend. And my challenge for all of you is hold yourself to a higher standard. Make this an action event. This is not like just going to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game and applauding all the time. Every speaker say, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do? Apply the applause into action. We've been given this gift. The next generation helped put Donald Trump into the White House. What comes next will determine whether or not we're a civilization We're just a collection of colonies and strangers in our own nation. God bless you guys. Thank you so much.